Yo, what's up guys? How's it going? Tim Burson's here. I'm back with more content for you today. You're looking really good today. I don't know if it's like the hair or the eyes or maybe the shirt you're wearing, but anyway, stop distracting me. I have stuff to talk about. So today we're going to be talking about protein, and we're going to talk about whether protein causes a stress response or not and how that affects your metabolism. So stress and metabolism are always inherently related. They're very, very closely related because at the core of it, a low metabolism is a symptom of too much stress. So whether it's the polyunsaturated fats that are causing a constant stress on your cells and reducing their energy expenditure, whether it's too much exercise, too few calories that are hurting your metabolic rate and triggering your body to turn on that stress response, or anything else, basically it all comes down to your body turning on the stress response, activating the stress metabolism to try to meet some new energy requirement of the cell that it couldn't currently meet with the oxidative recovered metabolism. So if protein is causing a stress response, then that is going to be activating the stress response that is causing the stress metabolism and pushing down the oxidative metabolism. And we don't want that, because obviously we want the oxidative metabolism. We want our cells to be ramping up energy production, creating more carbon dioxide, getting that positive feedback loop going. That's so important for that. So there's really two things that we're going to be talking about with protein. The first is your amino acid balance, and I've talked about this briefly before, so we'll touch on it real quick. But then the second one has to do with how protein is absorbed and utilized and digested, and the insulin response that it can cause. So let's get started. The first one, rebalancing the amino acids. We talked before about this, but to catch everybody up, make sure we're all on the same page. There are certain amino acids that cause inflammation, cause some stress. There are some certain amino acids that are very anti-inflammatory and reduce that stress. And the ones that cause the stress, those are the anti-inflammatory or the anti-metabolic, Those are the anti-metabolic ones. The ones that reduce the stress are the ones that are the pro-metabolic ones. So the anti-metabolic ones are things like tryptophan, cysteine, methionine, and histamine, where the pro-metabolic ones are glycine, alanine, proline, and hydroxyproline. And there are a few others that are kind of like in those categories, but those are the four main on either side. So where do you find these amino acids and how common are they in the diet? And before we get into this, first I also want to say, you're not trying to cut out all of the anti-metabolic amino acids. Like, they are important, they serve functions, and a lot of them are actually essential amino acids, meaning that your body can't create them from other amino acids. So you do want them. But just because your body can't create them doesn't mean that you want to eat tons and tons and tons of them, because then that causes problems as well. Even the conditionally essential ones, the ones that your body can make, your body might not make them fast enough for all of the optimal functions that your body can be performing. So with the anti-metabolic ones, they are all found in a higher proportion in muscle meats. So the chicken meat you're eating, the beef meat you're eating, the pork, the fish, all that meat that you're eating is higher in proportion in those anti-metabolic amino acids. And the same is true for your own muscles. They all contain a higher proportion of the anti-metabolic amino acids, which actually makes perfect sense, because in times of starvation, your main protein source would be your own muscles. Your body would be breaking down your own muscles for protein and would be flooding its system with a higher amount of the anti-metabolic amino acids. Now contrast that with the abundance. When your food's plenty, you'd be eating full animals. You'd be hunting, you'd be eating the animal, but you wouldn't just eat the muscle meat. You'd be eating things like the collagen, the gelatin, the organ meats, the skin. All of those have a much higher proportion of the pro-metabolic amino acids. And in fact, some of them have like zero anti-metabolic, or like zero tryptophan in a lot of them. And by eating more of those when you eat the muscle meats at the same time, you balance those amino acids out so that you have less of that stress response. So that's the first one. Now, second one, we were talking about the digestion, the utilization of protein, and the insulin response that it can cause. So a lot of people associate insulin with carbs, and that's true because carbs are probably the most insulinogenic macronutrient that you can consume. But protein also can stimulate insulin response. So if you're eating a lot of protein and you're not eating any carbs, what ends up happening is that your protein is flooding your system as it gets digested. Insulin is released in order to stimulate the uptake of your cells of the protein, but you're not eating carbs. So what happens is your blood sugar ends up dropping, because the sugar that is in your blood is responding to the insulin, even though it's not causing that insulin to be released. So the protein gets up, causes insulin response, pushes the protein in, but also lowers the blood sugar. Now at this point, if you don't have enough liver glycogen to be supplying more glucose for the blood, then your blood sugar dropping triggers that stress response. You start releasing adrenaline, cortisol. Cortisol starts breaking down amino acids to fuel the gluconeogenesis, creation of new glucose in order to raise your blood sugar. The adrenaline helps to release a lot of fatty acids through lipolysis, flooding your bloodstream and causing the Randle cycle. Randle cycle is basically that anytime fatty acids and glucose are in the blood at the same time, they compete for entry into the cell. So basically when you're ramping up lipolysis during the stress metabolism, you're hurting your insulin sensitivity because now those free fatty acids are competing with glucose to get into the cell. And it makes perfect sense from a stress metabolism because basically what you're doing is you're trying to maintain your blood sugar so you don't die. And if carbs are scarce and you don't have a lot of them, then you want to ramp up the fat and you want to prevent those carbs from going in the cells. You want to keep them in the blood so that you can maintain that blood sugar and direct them where they need to go for all the important functions that carbs do. So the solution to this, make sure you're eating those lots and lots of those pro-metabolic amino acids, things like the organ meats, liver. Make sure you're eating gelatin and collagen. You can get the Great Lakes powdered gelatin collagen, just sprinkle it on meat anytime you're eating it. Actually makes it taste like 10 times better. You can also put it in, it's flavorless, so you can put it in coffee. You can even just, a couple days ago, I forgot to put it on my chicken. And I was like, God damn it, I forgot to add the collagen. So I just mixed it in some water and just did a quick shot. It didn't taste like anything. So that's always an option for you to do as well. And then I also sip on bone broth at night. I've talked about that before as well. Bone broth, again, high in the pro-metabolic amino acids. I don't avoid muscle meat. I still eat the muscles, but I make sure that I always balance it out with those pro-metabolic amino acids. And then in addition to that, always be sure that you're eating enough carbs with protein. Usually in the same meal, I'll make sure I at least have a 1-to-1 ratio. So if I'm eating 50 grams of carbs, I'll have 50 grams of protein, I'll have 50 grams of carbs. If I have 100 grams of protein, I'll make sure I'm having 100 grams of carbs. I like to backload my protein for the day. So the last 2 meals have pretty much all the protein that I'll get for the day. The rest of the morning and the daytime, I'm usually just eating fruit and sugar. I call it intermittent sugar fasting, and it's actually like crazy the productivity and well-being effects that I've been getting from it. But I'll do another video on that soon. But anyway, I'll make sure those last meals include enough carbs to not cause that drop in blood glucose from the protein creating an insulin response. Now, in addition to that, even if you do create some sort of drop in blood sugar, you want to make sure that your liver glycogen is full enough that it can do what it needs to do in order to raise your blood sugar back up without triggering the stress response from releasing like the fatty acids and causing the insulin sensitivity to go down and all the stuff we already talked about that is so damaging about the stress metabolism, especially when it's turned on in the long term. So the way you do that is you make sure you're eating plenty of fructose. Fructose fills the liver glycogen really well. Make sure you're eating enough carbs overall to make sure that you're fueling it up. And if you're doing that, then you should be fine. If you start to notice that you're feeling stressed or that after protein you start to feel like your hands and your feet get cold and you start to feel just like not right, usually that's a sign that your blood sugar is dropping. You're trying to turn on the stress metabolism to make up for it. So those 2 things, eliminate stress from protein, make sure that you're not causing your blood sugar to drop, make sure that you're eating plenty of the pro-metabolic amino acids. If you do all these things, then protein is going to be super beneficial. It's going to fill all the roles it needs to do, build your muscles, help with enzyme function, help with hormonal creation, and all of the myriad of things that protein does, because it's like protein does so many things. It's so important for your body. You definitely want to make sure you're getting a total amount that's around 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass or body weight. Depends on if you're really overweight, go lean body mass. If you're normal weight, go body weight, just to make it easier. Somewhere around there, usually between 100 and 150 is what I'd recommend. So make sure you're getting enough protein for all those functions. Make sure you're eating carbs with all the protein. Make sure that you're eating plenty of pro-metabolic amino acids, and you will be good. All right, I'm out of here. Peace. Oh, and one more thing before I sign off. I have a metabolism quiz that I've created that will give you a score that basically tells you where you are on the metabolic spectrum. From the slow end to the high end, you can figure out where you are based on a couple symptoms, and it'll help give you an idea of what you need to do to take the next steps forward. So I'm going to put a link to it right here, and you can just click it, go check it out, do all the cool stuff. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, comment with more video ideas, and let me know what you want to hear. And I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, for real this time. Peace.